Hello friends, I am Dr. Rohini Ruhil. A very happy and sustainable New Year 2024 to all of you. As we look back at the previous year 2023, it was a year full of disasters. In February 2023, an earthquake in Turkey and Syria took more than 55,000 lives. In September, the storm Daniel in Libya killed at least 4,000 people. During the same month, an earthquake in Morocco killed about 3,000 people. In October 2023, an earthquake in Afghanistan killed about 1,500 people. Tropical cyclone Freddy killed at least 650 people in Malawi during March 2023. Flooding in the Democratic Republic of the Congo killed at least 430 people during May 2023. As of date, today also we are watching snowstorms, torrential rains and flooding in different parts of the world. The year 2023 was also the warmest year on record, which demands serious concern that climate change is rapidly accelerating. The global surface temperature in the previous decade increased by 1.1 degrees Celsius, which is the warmest in last 1 lakh years. There are projections for the year 2100 that warming will increase by 1.5 and 2 degrees Celsius in the presence of strong mitigation efforts. And warming could increase by 4 degrees Celsius in the absence of or with low mitigation efforts. This is very likely human induced and is due to greenhouse gas concentrations. Unplanned development has led to emission of greenhouse gases over decades and thus climate change. Human influence has led to warming of atmosphere and oceans, ocean acidification, changes in precipitation patterns, changes in sea levels, loss of biodiversity, and extreme climate conditions. This conceptual framework by Haljan and colleagues details how human activities lead to greenhouse gas emissions, leading to climate change and its effects. Direct effects of climate change include temperature changes, heat waves, changing precipitation patterns, floods, droughts, wildfires. More indirect effects include ecosystem disruption, changing vector patterns, air pollution, aeroallergens. All this leads to increased risk of diseases and health effects. Direct health effects include morbidity and mortality during heat waves, droughts, wildfires. Asthma might be the most common cause of heat wave associated respiratory disease. Also, studies have reported child mortalities from cold temperatures in countries like Madrid, Spain, and China. Further, events like flooding increases waterborne and foodborne infectious diseases. Climate change is also creating more favorable conditions for vectors and malaria transmission. One study estimated that almost half of the world's population could be at risk for dengue fever by the end of the century. The effect of exposure of children to air pollution is detrimental. Exposure to particulate matter adversely affects lung functions in children. Thus, climate change is magnifying already existing health inequities. Coming to the solutions part, climate change has been a major global concern for several decades. The world leaders showed concern for the environment for the first time in a global conference in Stockholm in 1972. It marked the beginning of a global dialogue on the interconnectedness of human activities and the environment. The simultaneous publication of Limits to Growth pointed out challenges of economic growth towards environmental sustainability. In 1988, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change (IPCC) was established to provide the world with a clear scientific view of current state of knowledge on climate change and its potential environmental and socioeconomic impacts. After that, the Earth Summit in Rio in 1992 led to the creation of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, a treaty that provided a framework for negotiating specific international agreements aimed at combating climate change. The 1997 Kyoto Protocol and 2015 Paris Agreement build on the convention. Kyoto Protocol was the first agreement to set quantitative targets for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The Paris Agreement was a historic agreement where 196 parties committed to limit global warming to well below 2, preferably to 1.5 degrees Celsius compared to pre-industrial levels. It introduced nationally determined contributions (NDCs) as a mechanism for countries to outline their emission reduction targets. Then, annually since 1995, significant conferences, including COP25 in Madrid in 2019 and COP26 in Glasgow in 2021, have assessed progress in dealing with climate change, and since 2015 reviewed the implementation of the Paris Agreement. The 28th Conference of Parties, COP28, was held in Dubai from 30th November to 12th December 2023, where the representatives from 197 countries showcased their efforts to limit global warming and held discussions to prepare for future climate change. The key outcomes of COP28 included global climate action across four pillars. The first is regarding energy transition. The second is regarding climate finance. The third focuses on lives and livelihoods. And fourth is regarding inclusivity in all efforts. Let's discuss these four outcomes in detail. First is energy transition. A rapid decarbonization of the energy system is the key to mitigating climate change. This requires accelerating the clean energy transition, both from the demand and supply side. The 52 signatories of the Oil and Gas Decarbonization Charter commit to net zero operations by 2050. In addition, France and other countries launched Coal Transition Accelerator to share expertise, design new policies, and unlock new sources of financing. Further, Utilities for Zero Alliance, having 31 partners, is commitment to advance electrification, renewables ready grids, and clean energy deployment. Then, Cargo Honors for Zero Emission Vessels is the collaborative platform towards zero emission ocean transport. Further, the Latin American and Caribbean Renewables Hub have raised the target for renewable energy in total electricity generation. Previously it was 70%, now raised to 80% to be achieved by 2030. They also aim to reach a share of renewable energy in total energy supply of at least 36% by 2030. Whilst we didn't turn the page on the fossil fuel era in Dubai, this outcome is the beginning of the end. This was said by UN Climate Change Executive Secretary Simon Stiell in his closing speech during COP28. Climate finance took center stage at the conference. It was called the Great Enabler of Climate Action. The Green Climate Fund received a boost with 6 countries pledging new funding. Further, 8 donor governments announced new commitments to the Least Developed Countries Fund and Special Climate Change Fund. In addition, the Global Capacity Building Coalition, supported by Bloomberg Philanthropies, aims to provide technical assistance for financial institutions in developing countries. The launch of the Nature Solutions Hub aims to scale up the finance into conserving nature and biodiversity loss in Asia and the Pacific. While the mobilization of significant finance is crucial, the indebtedness of developing countries has also been acknowledged previously at COP27. The next pillar is people, lives, and livelihoods. Now, with the recognition of the need for intersectoral connections, the COP28 presidency convened the first ever Health Day. A total of 141 national governments joined the Declaration on Climate and Health, which aims to strengthen health systems and building of resilient and thriving communities while advancing climate resilient development. In addition, the Food and Agricultural Organization (FAO) developed a global roadmap aimed at eliminating hunger and malnutrition while aligning with climate mitigation. The domains include clean energy crops, fisheries and aquaculture, food loss and waste, forests and wetlands, healthy diets, livestock, soil and water, and data and inclusive policies. On the emissions front, it aims to reduce agri-food systems methane emissions by 25% by 2030. Further, as a major boost to climate action, 38 countries joined the Freshwater Challenge, which is the world's largest initiative to restore degraded rivers, lakes, and wetlands and to protect freshwater ecosystem. As a matter of fact, climate change particularly impacts vulnerable communities and underrepresented groups. Thus, COP28 ensured the representation of all voices around the world. There was an appointment of the Youth Climate Champion and the Youngo to collect the progress of youth inclusion and policy implementation. As a key part of inclusivity, 78 national governments signed the COP28 Gender Responsive Just Transitions and Climate Action Partnership, which advances gender equality. Further, capacities for Rights-Based Climate Action Day mobilized grassroots organizations, indigenous people, and local communities. Lastly, a high-level event on artificial intelligence for climate action aimed to identify and support the development of AI-powered solutions for climate action in developing countries. Regarding India's participation at COP28, India and Sweden co-launched the Industry Transition Platform and Lead IT 2.0 to focus on inclusive and just industry transition, co-development, transfer of low-carbon technology, and financial support to emerging economies for industry transition. It also co-hosted the Green Credits Program to incentivize voluntary pro-planet actions. The initiative issues green credits for plantations on degraded lands and river catchment areas to rejuvenate and revive natural ecosystems. India also showcased the Mishti scheme at Mangrove Alliance, where mangrove plantations along the coastline and on such pans are being taken up. At the Indian Pavilion, an event was hosted Climate Resilient Development in the Indian Himalayan region. Here, the experts elaborated on the importance of the National Mission for Sustaining the Himalayan Ecosystem. Lastly, the Quad Climate Working Group side event on localizing climate action focused on the role of local communities, local and regional governments in supporting sustainable lifestyles. In conclusion, there are intertwined challenges of climate change and public health. This requires a holistic approach that integrates environmental, social, and economic considerations. The solutions proposed are multifaceted, involving significant shifts in energy production, urban planning, agricultural practices, all geared towards reducing greenhouse gas emissions and enhancing resilience to climate related health risks. Furthermore, the emphasis on cross sectoral collaboration and the adoption of innovative technologies underscores the importance of collective effort and advanced scientific interventions. The success of these endeavors not only hinges on policy and technological innovation, but also on fostering a global consciousness about the interconnectedness of climate and health, thereby motivating individual and collective actions towards a more sustainable and healthy future. So, thank you very much. Kindly like and subscribe to the channel. You can also write me at the given email address. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening.